Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Rotowire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, sponsored by WynnBET. WynnBET is WYNN, just in case you wanted to go check that out. I am Scott Jenstad, joined as always on Sunday nights by Jeff Erickson. Well, except for last week. We were off last week, but it was a nice break, but really good to be back. I missed talking baseball with Jeff. So we're here kind of attacking the second half. I know it's not technically the halfway point, but I want to call it the second half anyway. Jeff, how are you? It's been a couple weeks. How's everything going?
Doing well. Happy to be back. I'm a dog owner now. So
congrats on that. That's very good news. I like to hear that.
Yeah. We got ourselves a rescue. He's kind of a golden retriever, but he's a lot of everything, I think. But he's a good boy. He's a very good boy, and he loves our company. And just to the point where if I put on my shoes, he gets excited, and he thinks it's walk time. But he likes going in the car with us. He just likes being around us. So it's kind of cool to see, but it is like having a kid all over again too, in terms of like putting him down for the night and things like that. But that's in the Dog Talk podcast. We'll have to do that one separately.
I assume the kids are super happy though.
Yes, they are.
That's awesome. That's good. No, it's as someone who's had our second rescue now, it's a very fun thing, and I can't imagine my house without it now. So it's funny how that works. But yeah, let's jump into the baseball. We're past the All-Star break, all that. We had one series before that. I kind of want to do a little check in on how the season's going for you, what you've learned from the first half, how you're faring there, how are your like major teams doing?
So my 15-team leagues are doing better than my 12-team leagues,
all right.
Which I don't know if there's a lesson to be learned there or if it's just happenstance, especially in the NFBC format, though. Like the main is doing better than the online championship, and it's not really even close. I think that's also been the case there where there's two different seasons. There's the first 8 weeks of the season and then everything that's happened after with the pitchers. I think it's a completely different world. That said, Garrett Cole and Lucas Giolito have stabilized a little bit, at least the last couple of starts. Hopefully that carries over the rest of the way. It used to be like, got so excited for those days. And then for about a month, you started dreading that because they always pitch on the same day too. You're like, you expect improvement on those days. And when you're backsliding on those days, it really sucks.
It does. It's funny. I think you and I have talked a few times. I haven't had quite the time to dig into my teams as much this year. And I've learned that winning these leagues, like, and it could be NFBC main event, or it could be competitive home league, could be labor, tout, all the stuff that you play also. Like, winning these leagues is tough. I've realized that, I put a lot of work into my leagues, and, I don't like to talk about a lot, but I've done really well in the NFBC in the past.
Right.
It's been a struggle this year. I'm very middling. I've got one team that's got 91 points, which has a chance. The other's like in the mid 70s, but I just I've made some mistakes that I usually don't make. I haven't had quite the time to stick in a FAAB, and I've realized that we talk about, luck and skill and all that. I tell you what, if you don't put work into any serious league, you're not going to do well. And I've really learned that this year. And I'm hoping to get some more in the second half. But I tell you what, it takes energy. It takes grind. I like doing it. It's fun. I wouldn't do it as a hobby if I didn't like doing it. But it's I've really learned this year that, that time that I've put in past years really does pay off.
It does. It really does. I made some mistakes. Some of them are kind of amateur level mistakes, and this isn't me throwing my partner on the bus. I was there for the bid as well, but like rostering and starting pitchers that I have no business being on an active roster. Just, hey, like this All-Star break. Hey, J-Happ gets the Tigers. First of all, J-Happ stinks. Secondly, the Tigers aren't the Tigers from April and May, and I knew this, yet there he is. Cause I didn't want to take like a blank for 3 days. God forbid, as opposed to 7 runs, or Seth Lugo, he's safe. That was fun too. I got punted. And here's the thing. I'm having a hard time finding safe harbor. I'm really having a hard time finding like the can't hurt you guy. They don't really exist.
They're rostered is the problem. There's no like waiver wire. Oh, this guy will be, 6 innings, 3 earned runs, and maybe a chance for a win. Like, and the problem is it's not even that. It's you pitch those guys and they give up 9 runs and 2 2/3. And like, I've had a bunch of those blowups, and those just, like, I feel like avoiding those blowups has been a huge deal for a lot of people. And you see like the people that are, the ERAs in the low 3s and the people in the high 3s. It's a couple of those really, really awful starts that made the difference. I mean, I've eaten 2 or 3 of them, and they're really hard to come back from.
They are. And, it's just almost everybody gets 1 or 2, but when you get 4 or 5 or 6, that's when it's really a lot more difficult. And then so Saturday I had Seth Lugo and Joaquim Soria do their dirty work against me on Saturday on the same team. Now, Soria, I get what I get. I don't get upset because there's a payoff. I got my save today.
You got saved today, yeah. The thing with Lugo is you're in there like, give me 2 clean innings rather than a starter or a 0.
Yeah,
and he gives you 4 or 5 earned, whatever it was. I mean, that's
in 2/3 of an inning. Yeah,
that Mets game was insane. By the way, that was
every game for that series was insane.
It really was. The play today is the most ridiculous play I've seen all year. The Taiwan Walker 3 runs scored on a 10-foot dribble. I mean, I saw it like 3 times. I still don't understand what the hell they were doing.
Strange things happen in Pittsburgh. It reminds me of the Javi Baez play from earlier this year, where something stupid happens there. I mean, it's just there should be 0 runs happening on that play.
Yep,
and it ends up being 3. Just unreal.
And like the fact that nobody chased the ball, just kind of sat there. It was an insane play. But it was it was a wild weekend of games. I felt like there was a lot going on, both good and bad. It's just kind of a crazy, weird weekend of baseball.
It was, and there was so much going on. You could take your eye off the ball really easily and miss all of that too.
And I think that is kind of part of my point too. Like, I know people talk about, like, I just look at the numbers, I just look at standings. Like, for me, I think being able to like watch games and watch pitchers and watch at bats really makes a difference. And I have not had a chance to do much of that. I've watched a lot of A's games, but that's kind of about it. Mm-hmm. I've just been busy, and it's just, I guess it's an excuse, but it's not an excuse. It's just, I think that it makes a big difference when you can watch your pitcher and be like, oh, that 6-inning 2 earned run game, they can be very different. They can be a game where a guy looks really good and give maybe a 2-run homer, or it could be a game guys kind of dancing through base runners all game long. And I think it really, for me at least, it makes a difference to be able to watch games and kind of study guys. And I've noted that I've been hurt from that this year.
Yeah, and this is a big week. This week and next week, before training camp opens up for football teams. Yeah. This is where like people are going to be grinding this next 2 weeks, and then they might drop off in August and September.
And you got trade deadline right there too, which is, right. Can often throw some, especially closer situations, just fully up in the air. I mean, you might think you're fine in saves and you have 3 closes, and all of a sudden, in 2 weeks you got 1 just because of the trade deadline. It happened to me 2 years ago. I think I had 3 closes and I was down to 1. 4 hours later when the trade deadline ended. It's there's a lot of stuff. Do you kind of plan for the trade deadline now? Do you make any moves these next couple of weeks thinking ahead of that? Are you trying to like find a speculative closer that maybe is behind a Craig Kimbrell or Richard Rodriguez? Are you looking for maybe an offensive guy who's going to get full-time playing time? Detroit, trades Robbie Grossman or something like that?
Sure, I try to do that. Sometimes
it's hard. You're guessing a lot too. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like you mentioned, like the Kimbrell situation. Sometimes they trade the setup guy, though, too. Like Andrew Chafin's probably going to get dealt.
And I think Ryan Tepera gets dealt too, and he's been good. And I think a lot of teams probably get a guy like that a little bit cheaper. And you might be Chafin and Tepera, and Kimbrell ends up staying, which would be pretty wacky.
Right. Well, because of the contract, exactly. And that's exactly why. But Kimbrell better be traded. I was thankful the Cubs traded Peterson to kind of get the ball rolling. I love trade deadline season. I love seeing trades in July. Yeah, I need more of them. Plus, as a Reds fan, I was like, "Yay! All right, 1 team out of it." And then the Reds decide, "Oh, we're kind of out of it too."
Unless it's Yoenis Cespedes for John Lester, I'm all for trade season.
Yeah. Has he blocked you yet? I know Brian Anderson has, but
I know I have to think that John Lester's not on Twitter. He does not seem like a Twitter guy. It's all in good fun. But your Reds had a rough weekend. My A's had a rough weekend. What are the Reds going to do at the deadline? Are they going for it? Are they selling? What do you think they do?
I think the best money is on standing pat.
Okay.
Because that's what they usually do, first of all. Right. Secondly, they basically did that, although they didn't sell off this offseason, although they sold Iglesias and they let Archie Bradley walk for nothing. But we've covered that ground.
Yeah, but the bullpen's been totally fine and no issues there, so you're fine.
And we've been nails at shortstop too. That money that we saved that we're going to use to stabilize that situation, it's been totally fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think the A's need an outfielder. The A's need like 2 relievers, and I don't know. I think they'll try and do something, but it's always the money in there. They're an absolute mess of a franchise now with the fighting over the stadium. They had 8,000 fans, I think, at the game today for a Sunday afternoon. It was just absolutely brutal for a team that's in the playoff mix. And there's probably some games they've had less than that, and it's rough. The Red Sox and fireworks, they get fans, and that's pretty much about it. And the team's pretty pissed off at the city. The city's putting up proposals that are never going to pass. I think it's for the first time in a long time, I think it's kind of headed out of town right now. It's kind of where I'd lean if I had to. I'd take a side of the fence.
It couldn't happen to a nicer ownership group. I mean, the way they handled like firing people in the scouting department and metrics department, the way they've treated minor leaguers. I mean, they're the ones that first got highlighted for how like they were feeding them so poorly and all that. The clubhouse meal. I mean, you get what you get what you deserve as far as that goes.
I agree. I mean, they treated Marcus Semien like absolute crap with that offer that they made to him.
Yeah,
just flat out insulting. Like, pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, Marcus, we can't sign you. We don't have the money." And he'd be like, "Okay, fine, I understand." But offer him what they offered him was it's stupid. It's insulting. It's just like tone deaf. It's a mess, and they have their team presence always kind of the face of the franchise because the owner never is out front, and he's like tweeting stuff from Las Vegas, and it just like feels like he's rubbing it into fans, which is short-sighted and stupid too. Like, you're gonna need these fans to follow you, to be fans of whatever team, whatever city it may be. They're just they seem like they're burning bridges right now, and for no reason to.
Right, and it's just like kind of like Montreal when they left town, and you crap all over a fan base and just you soil it for the future too. I mean, it's not like they're going to support you with the move, and it's not good for anybody else that wants to go there too, for that matter. I mean, you keep on saying, "Oh, we can't compete with this. We can't compete with that." Well, eventually it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy.
Agreed.
And yeah, it's just another case. And plus, they're gearing up for the labor war, which we all know is happening, and that's why I expect the Reds to do very little. I expect Cleveland to do very little. I expect Oakland and Tampa Bay to do very little. Because they're all gearing up for this. I mean, the Cubs. I mean, they played their cards face up this offseason when they traded away Yu Darvish.
Fantasy wise, if I'm in a dynasty league, I'm trying to win this year. I'm just going to put it that way because I don't know what you're getting next year.
Yeah, I agree. If you have a chance, go for it.
I do too. So let's jump into this week. We got a full week this week coming off the half week after the All-Star break. We got a lot of teams with 7 games. I'm not going to list them all because it's about half a league. Right. I think Minnesota plays 8 is the one team. They have a doubleheader tomorrow with the White Sox. There are 3 teams with 5 games, though. A big disadvantage this week when a lot of teams have 7. The Rockies, the Royals, and the Brewers have 5. In terms of AL teams going NL Parks, losing the DH, we have the White Sox and the Royals play at Milwaukee this week. The Mariners go to Coors Field, playing the Rockies on Tuesday and Wednesday. And the Blue Jays headed the Mets Friday through Sunday. That's going to be an interesting one. The Blue Jays have a lot of good hitters, and I guess either Gurriel or Grichuk's got to sit with no DH. Yeah,
that's right. And probably they alternate,
Yeah.
They probably
Which kills both of them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I
guess whoever starts Friday you use, and if they don't, you figure they're going to play just Saturday, and maybe you lose 2 games. But that's a fun stacked lineup. What, they had like 17 runs or something today in the doubleheader? They just mashed.
Yeah, they do. They're super fun, and yeah, absolutely. I just hate seeing it. Like someday we'll have the universal DH again. We had it; it was so nice for a year. We didn't have like a pitcher coming off the IL and going right back on it because he hurt his hamstring running the bases. Oh, Lorenzen I'm talking about here now.
Oh, I was going Eliezer Hernandez on that one too.
Oh yeah. There's countless. Well, Zach Gallen doing what he did, swinging a bat. Jacob deGrom doing what he did, swinging a bat.
You see his quote today. He said his first 4 injuries were all swinging the bat. He doesn't think this one is, but he said the first 4 were all from swinging the bat, which is great.
Yeah, and then it's just ruined. It's just you keep doing it the back and forth. But that's for later in the outline, so we'll get to that.
Yeah, no doubt there. Let's jump into FAAB because it was an interesting FAAB week. We had some call-ups. We're going to cover guys that were available in NFBC and guys that weren't. Also, there were a couple of news announcements. Brandon Marsh got called up. Josiah Gray is going to pitch this week for the Dodgers. Those guys were not available in NFBC because they're not debuted yet, but obviously we'll cover a lot of different leagues, home leagues. I think you picked up Brandon Marsh in AL Tout. Is that right?
Yeah. That's right.
Tout. But let's jump into the top guy is Jarren Duran with the Red Sox. Got called up as having a really good year in AAA. 15 home runs, 12 stolen bases in 46 games. Like just a really impressive line. Dude had 46 stolen bases between A and AA in 2019. If you were looking for steals and you needed steals in the league, this kind of felt like the guy that maybe this is the spot you take for somebody. Yeah,
and what he went for, and one way was determined on who had what money they had left in FAAB.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. I got him in one of my 2 mains, the one where I had more money, but I need stolen bases less, but I still, he's a difference maker. You get it. That was the approach we took. Got him for a pretty reasonable price of $135. At a second bid was like 77, I think, something like that. But then and I had over 400 left. So I was like, okay, let's go for it. It's at the very least, one of my rivals isn't going to get him. And that has value in and of itself. Now I can gain some points, not a lot in stolen bases, but it also kind of gives me some flexibility to move some things around how I want.
And the lineup is to score a lot of runs. Like it's not like he's going to be we're not looking at Malik Smith here. We're looking at a guy that can contribute across the board too. I mean, he had 15 home runs in AAA. I mean, this is a guy that. How do you see them playing him? Do you think it's a play versus already sit versus lefties? Do you think it's an every day we're going to commit to this guy? How do you feel about playing time when you're bidding on him?
So Cora was outright about it. He said he's going to play against all righties and he'll pick his spots against lefties. Like tough lefties, he's probably not going to do it. Maybe the first couple lefties. The danger is him, missing some games, missing some at bats, I should say, where he gets pinch hit for if they bring in a tough lefty. Although, let's face it, other teams aren't going to burn their lefty just to face Duran unless it's a super critical spot.
Yeah, you're going to save it for Rafael Devers at the top of the lineup, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the other problem, though, is he's not hitting at the top of the lineup.
He's playing center field, so I assume he's a pretty decent defender, too. So you don't want to – in a close game, you may not even want to take him out either, which is helpful. But I don't know. You give me all games against righties and then, maybe sitting against tough lefties. I think it's a pretty good setup for a young guy like that. Like, I don't really need him facing the top 20% of nasty lefties anyway. I mean, that's going to be an 0 for 3 and call it a day anyway. So I think that's actually a pretty good setup for a young guy.
Yeah, hit 7th today. Didn't do so well, but he went 0 for 4 with 2 Ks. But I expect better times to come. And I know we've been burned by Kelnick and others that have struggled upon their debut, but still, go get them.
Yeah, I agree. Mine was weird. In I have two main events. One of them I really need stolen bases badly, and he was it was one of the 4 leagues he was owned in. He was actually drafted.
Wow.
And dropped and picked up. I think he was 12% owned. So however many leagues that is, it's 4 or 5 of them. And then my other league, I got money, but I'm second in steals. And I needed outfielders, but I needed steal. So I bid it on him, but I wasn't quite as aggressive as you were. I think I was the 3rd bid or something like that. But It was weird. The spot I needed him, he wasn't there, but it just sometimes it just kind of works that way. But it'll be fun. I mean, I think he's got a better path to playing time than the Tampa guys do, aside from Franco. But Walls and Brujan, it seems like there's just a lot of, and it's the Rays too, and there's just a lot of guys for not enough spots. Where I think in Boston, if Duran plays pretty well, I think, as you said before, he's gonna be in the lineup most days.
That's so funny you brought that up because I was just going to say, give me Duran over Brujan too.
Me too.
And Josh Lowe's still hanging around in the picture there at some point too. So that's further complicating matters. Margot is going to be in part of that mix too at some point in time. Yeah, I think it's very tricky in Tampa, as always.
Yeah, and they really like Taylor Walls' gloves. So I mean, you're seeing him play shortstop on some games, and Franco's playing third. It's just there's a lot of pieces and Tampa likes to move guys around too. So I think it's tough when you want playing time, especially when playing NPC, playing half weeks, and you see some guys sit on Monday, you got to take him out. It's just I think I'd rather have Duran just for the playing time aspect of it too.
For sure.
Talk to me about Brandon Marsh. You were heavy about him in AL tout. He's called up by the Angels, started in center field tonight. However, Mike Trout tweeted about 2 hours ago his usual tweet when they were going on a road trip with the airplane emojis, and he said Oakland. So I read that as at least he's going on the trip with the team if he's not coming to play against the A's on whatever's on Monday. There's a 2-game series they're playing. The A's are playing the Angels Monday, Tuesday. So I'm afraid Trout might be coming back this week. I was hoping he would wait 3 more days and the A's wouldn't have to face him. But
I still think they're going to avoid facing him. I don't think he hasn't done any game activity in 2 months. I think he's going just to work out with the team.
Okay.
I don't think he's actually playing. That'd be if I'm rolling the dice, that's the way I'd roll him. Of course, that's not a way you roll dice, but bad metaphor. Okay, if I'm placing my bets, that's how I.
There you go. So Marsh had 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, 110 plate appearances so far this year. K rate about 26.5%, nice walk rate at 14.5%. In 2019, a better sample. He had 412 plate appearances in Double-A, hit 7 home runs, 18 stolen bases. So a nice power speed combo guy. I know you're aggressive on him in AL tout. So what do you kind of see him do? Is it more for the speed, more for the power, kind of all around?
Yes, all that recency bias. Last 21 days, 417, 481, 792. I like that. Remember he was hurt this spring, so that slowed his start. He got off. He not only did he was slow to get started, and he got out of the block slowly too. I think when you look at his overall numbers, you have to take that with that grain of salt. I think you're looking at a guy that they were waiting to call him up until he was going to play all the time. I think it's instructive that they didn't call up Joe Adell at any point here. Adam Eaton, if Marsh is any good, Eaton's not really going to stand in the way. When Upton and Trout come back, you might have to worry a little bit. But again, I mean, Juan Lagares was obviously not getting it done. Their outfield today was Eaton, Ward, and Marsh. You know, even when Trout comes back, there's still room for Marsh if he does anything. If he pulls a Kelenic, then yeah, okay, fine. He gets sent back down again. But in AL Tout Wars, you take that chance.
Yeah,
in the NFBC, maybe you don't go as aggressively. I was pretty aggressive. In the AL only league, I spent 20% of my FAAB budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's a guy that, you know, A, could be productive, and B, could get a lot of at-bats, which is what essentially you're looking. You need guys that play a lot. I took it as interesting when Marsh came up, but I took it as a pretty good indication that Joe Adell's not really in the plans anytime soon. Because
me too.
At some point, and I know Adell's striking out a lot, but he's at like 29%. Marsh is at 26.5%. Like they're pretty close in terms of strikeouts. Adell's in a 13-game hitting streak. I said a bunch of home runs, but I think they're really going to only call him up when they think he's coming up for good. And maybe with Marsh, you know, comes up for a couple weeks, and if he's good, he sticks. If not, they can send him back down. But it seems to me like they do not want to do that with Adell no matter what. I dropped Adell in the league this week tonight just because I'm at the point where, you know, with Eaton signed, with Marsh up, with Trout coming back, I don't see them really doing it anytime soon. Well,
and it just raises the question what they're doing going forward. Rendon on his third trip to the IL.
Yeah.
I think third, maybe even fourth. I don't know. Seattle is 3 games ahead of them after today's game.
Yep.
They're 9 games out in the West. Wild card's not, 5.5 out in the wild card.
And three teams ahead of them in the West too. So it's not just 9 games.
Yeah.
They got a lot of teams to pass.
Right. And then they've got, and you add Cleveland, you add Tampa Bay, you add Toronto, you add the Yankees in the wild card. They are way behind in the wild card. So it's not just the games, it's also the teams, like you said. So it's unlikely they're going to make the playoffs again this year. So you have to start thinking about through that prism. What does a team like this do? And they're all front heavy. They got Ohtani, Trout, Rendon for the 12 games a year he's healthy. No starting pitching. Dylan Bundy's working out of the bullpen.
Yep. Griffin Canning's in AAA.
Yep, and not doing very well at that, if I recall correctly.
Andrew Heaney was bad again either today or yesterday. I mean, it's just aside from when Ohtani takes the mound, like and actually Patrick Sandoval's been really good too. He got touched up a little bit today, but kind of polished it up and pitched well by the end. He's like probably been their second best guy. Yeah,
and they just haven't been able to figure out the pitching for a long time here.
Well, that's why they drafted 20 pitchers and no hitters.
Yeah,
that was pretty wild.
That was wild. Yeah.
And it was so at the end, like it's almost like they were making a point and they couldn't go back from it. But like, I guess they figure we have had no pitching forever. We might as well just stack it up. But it just, I don't know. It feels like that's just a weird way to handle it now. Major League Baseball draft.
Yeah, it is. And I think it was Shelley Versteg that, and I always butcher her last name, so I apologize if I got it wrong. But she tweeted out, it's almost like they set their cue to auto draft college pitchers only.
Right. It's true though.
Yeah. It really is. She had a great line with that. So, but at any rate, it's and yet, I think it shows though you need development, and the Angels just don't do that.
No, and it's been years of that too. I mean, there was that time in the past where they had the Brandon Wood and Dallas McPherson was like, we're not trading these guys for anybody. They turned down a ton of deals, and almost none of those guys really developed. I mean, I had that Howie Kendrick turned out pretty well, but like they had a whole, I think it was Jeff Mathis, they had a catcher too. Like they had a bunch of guys, and none of them really developed into stars at all. Casey Kochman, another one, all in that same group.
Oh, I was all on the Casey Kochman train there. Oh my gosh,
I was sure Brandon Wood was going to hit 35 home runs at some point. I'm still waiting.
Arizona Fall League. There was a game where it was Brandon Wood and Howie Kendrick, Alex Gordon, and Billy Butler at the top of that lineup.
Nice.
And you're like, I can't wait to see these guys. And of course, there's Matt Taubman that had 2 homers that game. But
of course,
a catcher for the Royals system. But they just never quite got there. And it just kept on expecting. And I waited forever on Brandon Wood too.
Yep. So let's other guys have. I want to get to Josiah Gray in a second, but I'm going to do pitchers second. A couple other hitters. I didn't notice a ton of hitter options. Lorenzo Cain is back, going to be back probably midweek. He was playing 9 innings for Nashville, I believe, tonight, and then maybe a couple days more. Do you feel Cain has anything left? In 2019, he did have 11 home runs, 19 stolen bases, then sat out a big majority of last year, opted out. I think he played for the first week and then opted out. Before the 260 in 2019, he hit 300 in 4 of 5 prior seasons. I think it's safe to say the speed is gone, but do you think there's anything left in Cain enough to pick him up in leagues?
There might be, but I don't think he plays every day.
Yeah, that's a problem.
You look at the Brewers, and they were already 4 guys for 3 spots. Bradley has done some things here and there. Had a big triple today, and they're even getting Tyrone Taylor some playing time. And I mean, I think Taylor has something there. With Kane, Shu and I, we were looking to replace Kevin Pillar, get someone with more playing time. Pillar's not playing that much now that Nimmo's all the way back and Fordo's all the way back, etc.
Yeah.
We prioritize Adam Engel over Lorenzo Kane. I think that
says it all right there.
Yeah, it does. Well, and the White Sox prioritize Adam Engel over Adam Eaton, so that says a lot about Eaton too. But I understand that they're going to get Eloy Jimenez back. Engel won't be playing every day eventually, but we're looking for Mr. Right now this week
for sure.
Because we're unfortunately we have Judge, and so for at least for this week we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs, hoping to get by.
That Brewers lineup is wild. Do you ever think 3 months ago we were talking about Rowdy Tellez and Jace Peterson keeping from Keston Hiura from any playing time? It's pretty nuts.
Keston Hiura is keeping Keston Hiura from playing time.
Very true, but it's crazy that they're starting Jace Peterson and Tellez over him at first base, and whenever Wong plays second, it's just it's interesting, and it has Hiura. I don't know how many chances the guy's got left, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they messed up his swing. They did something. I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I think he's almost a drop now. Well, he is a drop in a 15.
I think he is a drop. Yeah, I think he's a drop across the board. He's not playing enough.
Yeah, and the other weird thing about Milwaukee is it used to be Miller Park. Yeah, it's a good hitter's park. Yeah. I'd rather start my Brewers hitters on the road, and then in Milwaukee. And I think it's the sight lines.
I would say, do we have any idea why? Oh, sight lines, huh?
That's what I think. A hitter's background's not great. And I read something that I know last year was true, that they were much better when the roof was closed than when it was open.
That. Yeah.
And I don't know if the data supports that this year, but I'm just going to roll with it and just say it as fact. And we'll fact check later.
There was a while that was like, it was like Coors Yankee Stadium, and then right behind that it was Miller Park. I mean, there was a time when the Brewers were just mashing it home.
Yeah, well, Houston was a hitter's park, a massive hitter's park at one point too, and they changed a couple of things, and things change quickly. Sometimes it's quiet. Houston, they did move the fences a little bit. They took out Towles Hill. The Crawford boxes, though, it's like, oh, that's a bandbox. Yeah. Well, no, look at the numbers. It's not really.
And not only that, that's like 10% of the outfield walls. That it looks really close. And I remember there are all the quotes people walked in the first time, like, oh my God, it's close. But like right center is insanely deep there. It's huge out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cleveland, the narrative has changed there a little bit. It used to be a hitter's park. Now it used to be a pitcher's park. Now it's a hitter's park. Detroit, same thing. It's a little all over the place. It just, we speak so authoritatively on park effects without backing up with the data sometimes.
Right. Speaking of ex-Brewers, Orlando Arcia playing outfield most days for Atlanta. Obviously, they've had a lot of injuries. In 2020, he had 5 home runs, 2 stolen bases, hit 260, but he was 15-14 in 2017. Did you have any interest in Arcia, just looking for some playing time? I kind of looked at it and didn't really get all that excited about it.
Yeah, I saw his AAA numbers. I think I grabbed him. I forget where I grabbed him. I'm playing too many leagues, Scott. It wasn't in the main in either of those, but yeah, I mean, the fact is now he's going to have 2 positions. Third and outfield is nice. Yep. That is handy. And, between he and Jock Peterson, 2 guys with a kind of a new lease on life, it sucks for the reasons why they have value for us, but here they are. And the thing is, Atlanta's lineup, it's so different than what we expected it to be this year. Now it's just Freeman and Albies basically.
Yeah, Dansby Swanson
and Riley. Yeah,
Swanson's coming a little bit, but I mean, you just take Acuna out of there, and it changes the whole dynamic. It's such a shame. I hate that injury. We obviously didn't talk about that because it happened last weekend, but that just sucked.
Yeah, we took the weekend off, the week off because of that in protest of the injury.
we should have.
I wish that were true, but no, it really does suck, and it sucks what it does for him, and it does for the game and all that, and for my TGFBI team.
So he got hurt the second week of July. So we're looking at next year opening day is going to be really interesting. It's going to be kind of right around there, maybe a chance to come back. His draft price is going to be pretty fascinating, especially kind of in some of the early drafts.
Yeah, I mean, can he run? I mean, that's going to be a huge question mark.
Huge question mark. And it's just, you got to figure he's not going to be fully good to go by opening day, but pretty close. Usually that's like a 9 to 10th month kind of thing. But you're right. Like, are you get stolen bases? Can you run around the outfield? How much do you want him to slide? All that kind of stuff. There's a lot that goes into that.
When is opening day going to be is another question.
I wasn't going to go down that path, but that's a very.
You already went down that path earlier.
It's a valid point. I mean, if opening day is May 15th, that makes a big difference for Acuna's draft price.
It does. It's a massive difference.
In Pittsburgh, John Nagowski is playing every day and hitting fifth for the Pirates on fire, at least with batting average. Hit 333 in 65 plate appearances, has 9 runs, 8 RBIs, no homers, but he's been hitting fifth. Hit fourth a couple times, which says probably a lot about the Pirates lineup more than anything. But those guys up top, those guys can get on base. Both Brian Reynolds and Adam Frazier do get on base, hitting for high average. In 2019 in AAA, Nagowski had 15 home runs, hit 295, so hit a little bit of average. I had a higher walk rate than strikeout rate, so I was a little bit intrigued by that. I had some small bids on Nagowski, just a guy who's hitting middle of the order and getting playing every day.
Hit 195 and 148 plate appearances at AAA Memphis for the St. Louis this year as a 28-year-old.
How did he get called up?
This is a hot streak.
It's wild he got called up with that. I did see that, but I looked at 2019. I was mildly interested. I had some small bids at 15 tiers when I need at bats, but I don't know. I was riding the hot streak and hopefully it lasts another week or two.
I hear you, but like 2019 was happy fun ball, and AAA was like super duper happy fun ball. It was nuclear happy fun ball, and although it's kind of funny, yet another Cardinals hitter that is doing well in another organization. I mean, how many of them can you get? Patrick Wisdom, Nagowski, of course, Adolis Garcia, of course, Rosarena. Yep. Yeah. It's wild to think about that.
Especially because all the corner outfielders the Cardinals have run through over the last few years. And
Luke Voigt, too, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Luke Voigt, that's a terror. Him going to the IL was brutal, too. But I felt Nagowski was a pure, like you said, a hot streak kind of guy that maybe get it for another couple weeks. But he was originally drafted by the A's. So maybe that was my interest right there.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, hot hands, I see it sometimes, especially if you have a hurt guy. You have someone to fill in. Why not go with that? Yeah. They get 6 games this week, all on the road, at Arizona, at San Francisco. Yeah, okay, I can see it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's probably a 1 week pickup and kind of see what happens. But you mentioned San Francisco. Did you do anything with the Giants outfielders? They have 7 games this week. I find it hard to figure out when these guys play, who's really good. We got Austin Slater, you got Alex Dickerson, you have Lamonte Wade. All of them kind of hitting under 250, but Slater at least has some stolen bases in there too. Do you like any of these guys kind of moving forward, kind of playing some matchups here this week?
I had some contingency bids on Wade, but he doesn't play every day, and that's the thing that kind of bugged me a little bit there.
They're platooning and moving guys in and out a lot, especially at first base in the outfield.
They play 6 righties and 1 lefty, though.
Yep.
Urias is the only lefty that they face. Gonsolin, Gray, Buehler. Okay, great. So maybe that
Gonsolin for 2 1/3 innings, and they're going to jump.
Well, there's that too. Cool, Crow, Brubaker. Brubaker has kind of struggled, and that's on our watch a little bit. So I've been following.
Yeah, he's been bad for like a month and a half.
I know.
It's been not good.
So the Friday to Sunday, if Dickerson seems like maybe that's a good plug-in. For that part of the week. Actually, I mean, it's who knows with Gonsolin and Gray. I mean. The Dodgers, they just keep finding ways. So I don't know.
They do.
It's a big week though. By the way, a huge series, 4-game series at Dodger Stadium there, and you're catching the Dodgers without Kershaw, and obviously without Bauer. That it's a really they could take advantage of it. Gausman comes back on Monday. He would have faced the Dodgers anyhow, but we got 1/2 of a less start for him. But big week for the Giants, that's for sure.
I think I read yesterday, so before today's game, Bellinger was 5 for his last 55 or something like that. He's at 168 now, Jeff.
Yeah, but you know what? He homered in the 22-1 game, and I was there for that. So
you saw. I hope you played a Dodgers stack in DFS then.
I did. I tweeted that out. I did.
How many hundreds of thousands of dollars did you win with that one?
Tens of dollars because I didn't have Pujols, I didn't have bets. It's like and. I had Ohtani going that night, and he did jack and nothing. So it could have been, Chris was flexing his muscles against him. So
oh boy, that was terrible. Yeah, that was the one game in the whole month that Ohtani didn't hit 2 homers. Yeah,
pretty much. So that was fun. I mean, I had this great Dodger stack and still could afford Ohtani and Buehler. But like I had Pollock, I had who had 2 homers. Bellinger homered. Turner hit a grand slam in that one.
Yep.
And still, I mean, I made money, but it was not anything obscene.
It's wild, though. We've talked about a lot of first-round picks that have busted, and Bellinger's been hurt, but 155 plate appearances, 168. You have 21 runs, 14 RBIs, 4 homers, and 2 steals. I mean, that is a disaster of a second-round pick right there.
It is. I don't want to. the injury is what steered me away from him.
Right.
The shoulder, because I thought there might be
too.
some long-term effects. So I don't have him anywhere. But sometimes I don't recognize like how bad he's actually been. But wow.
I was the same way, and I heard the stat list of 5 for the last 55. I was like, I wonder how bad he's been, because I'm the same way. I don't have him anywhere, so I knew he's been struggling and was injured, but I couldn't believe it's at 168. I mean, it's rough. I mean, strikeout rate is 11% higher than last year, and the last couple of years he's been under 18%. He's at 28% right now. I don't know. It's really bad. His hard hit rate's under 30%. A year where everybody's hitting the ball hard, he's under 30%. So it's not like he's getting unlucky. He's just been really bad.
And he's had like 3 different injuries.
Yeah,
like,
he has.
It's not like the leg was a kinetic chain from his shoulder.
And the leg was weird. Like he just got stepped on. All of a sudden, he somehow like fractured a bone. The whole thing has been very strange.
Although I wonder if that's connected to the hammy at all.
I don't know.
Compensating for it or whatever. I have a theory that he's not 100%.
He can't be, right?
Right. He also batted leadoff today. Because I know Mookie was out, and that's something we got to watch this week too, by the way, which is like the 4th time this season we've had to worry about him on a Monday.
You say that, but Bellinger hit 239 last year too. Like,
yeah, well, I know.
And that's he's like around 200 for the last 2 seasons.
But then he was so good in the playoffs, so it's like, we're fine.
We're fine.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it weird that he had the MVP season? And then they're doing the run up to the next season. He's like talking about changing his swing. I don't
47 home
that.
runs and 305 wasn't good enough. Let's tweak our swing. Like, I don't know. It felt like very Tiger Woods-esque, but like I was like,
well, it was like Verlander changing his delivery after such a huge season. I mean, it's Jeff Zimmerman was completely right. I kind of poo-pooed the notion. I thought, well, look at this outing here. He's fine. In the run up to the 2-month season, no, he wasn't fine. He was changing it for a reason, and sometimes he actually disclosed the reason. I was so stupid about that. But, if they're doing something like that drastic, something's wrong.
Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what his second half looks like, because I have no idea what to expect there. But let's jump into some pitchers. But first, a note from our sponsors. So, Jeff, I'm going to talk about Josiah Gray first. I know he wasn't available in NFBC leagues, but we talk about all kind of leagues here. Sounds like he's going to be picked or called up on Tuesday to pitch for the Dodgers. This is a guy that's one of their bigger prospects, and so far this year, he's only thrown 15 innings in AAA, but 2.87 ERA, 38% K rate. But you look back to 2019, he threw, doing the quick math, about 115 innings in the minors across A and AA, ERA about 2.5, strikeout rate about 28, 29%. I'm just kind of averaging the two seasons or the 2 times at A and AA here. But you look and it looks really, really good. Like this is a pretty high level guy they're calling up.
He is 22-2 K to walk. Is that something you're interested in? Yes. But only 15 innings so far this year. Yeah. He's not going to go more than 4 innings, I would bet.
That'd be my problem with him too. It'd be interesting. He might start twice this week too, if he starts Tuesday and Friday and Sunday. But I think we'll get a pretty good idea of how they're going to use him, which is really important in terms of his FAAB prices next week.
100%. Well, here's the problem though too, is like they might just say, okay, Clayton Kershaw is going to come back the following week. Right now, we're currently no timetable.
Yeah, and he's not even playing catch yet. I think we're a few weeks off, but I mean, it's the Dodgers. Yeah. They've got a lot of guys, and it's going to be at some point. But I don't know if you think there's a chance if Gray looks really good, they decide to go Price back to the bullpen at all. Do you think they could kind of shift that way? Or do you think Price is going to stick where he is?
Price went 4 today. I mean, he's pitching well. I mean, keep stretching him out. I know his whip's really high, but that's mostly from earlier in the year. I think they're probably better off stretching out Price at this point in time.
I think so too. I wonder if they'd be tempted to go 6 starters, but they piggyback 2 of them once a week. Like they go Gray and Gonsolin or Gray and Price, something like that. And they go, you can still kind of go 5-man rotation for Buehler and Kershaw and I guess Trevor Bauer, who knows if he's ever coming back. But they could get creative with it and maybe save the bullpen in some of those games, because it might work if Gray looks good.
Yeah. It could. And remember, trades can still happen. Yeah. And I
think trades will happen, and they're talking about signing Cole Hamels. I think they're going to trade for a starter no matter what, though.
Signing Cole Hamels, what does that do?
I wouldn't do it either. I just saw the rumor out there, but there's a lot of talk about Scherzer. There's talk about Jose Barrios. I think they're going to trade for somebody. I think they're not going into the playoffs with what they have, all the question marks they've gone, because I don't think they know if Kershaw's going to be set. I clearly don't think they know if Bauer's going to be back. I think that there's no way they're going in without one more starter, I think.
Yeah. And what they know and what they're sharing with us, what they do know are two different things too.
Agreed.
On both those pitchers.
Agreed.
And the Dustin May injury really kind of set the ball rolling for all of this too. I mean, he was breaking out. He was the
he looked
guy
awesome
this year, and takes everything away. And I don't know. I don't know how you can trust Gonsolin for a playoff start right now until you can get him going 5, 6, 7 innings.
It's tough in a playoff series too, because if you have one guy that goes 3 innings, you burn your bullpen. Like that matters the next day. It's right. They come.
Let's
right
look at the Padres last year.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you jump in the Willie Peralta pool at all this week? Another gem today. 7 innings, no earned runs, 4 hits, 4 Ks is not great, but 4 walks also not good. ERA is now 1.64 on 33 innings. Did you mess with this at all? Are you buying it at all on Willie Peralta?
I think we had bids on him last week and didn't get him, but I don't have him anywhere now. There's so much history.
It's like 15%. Like I think it's been dancing through a lot of raindrops here.
I think so too. He shut down the Royals. Okay. And he does get the Royals again, and then he gets the Twins. Okay. It's getting a little tougher. Yeah. I mean, it could work, right? It could work for the next couple of weeks, and that's all you need. The thing is, you don't want to get married to a guy like this. That's
187 BABIP, 90% strand rate. I think there's a big blow up coming, and I don't think I'm willing to risk another. If there's another good start, I think the blow up's coming. I stayed away.
But here's the problem: is you need somebody.
You do. There was a lot of stuff on Twitter tonight too. Like, I can't believe people started this guy and that guy. I'm like, it was a 3-game week, and people need starters. They need Ks. You're going to take some risks, and they look terrible when they blow up. There's people that had Mike Fultonevich today. There's Taijuan Walker today. I mean,
but Taijuan Walker's not in that category.
Yeah, he's not. But Fultonevich was. There was someone else. I forget who it was. That it was horrible.
Well, Matt Manning a couple of weeks ago, and and I don't. Let's not subtweet. Bubba was talking about this earlier here, and he made a good point. It's like you kind of know what you're getting into when you take these guys.
For sure. Yeah, but I think you do, and if you need strikeouts, you don't want to. If you had 6 guys that were active this week, like I could see Adam, I'm no way Fultonevich at Toronto. Like I would have thrown a 0 or a reliever over that. But I get what people are doing. Like if you're desperate for strikeouts or wins, you're like, I just got to get somebody that's live, and maybe he gets through 5. But I wouldn't do it. I actually didn't see Bubba's tweet. I just saw a bunch of people talking about it.
Well, that was like
I was not attempting to subtweet at all.
No, and that was a couple of weeks ago, and then I saw some other stuff today on Fulte, and I forget where that started, but it doesn't matter. The point is, you do have to start somebody, but maybe there's better chances to take. But I'm really struggling to find those guys, and the answer is draft better, sure, okay, but that ship has sailed. We got to get by. I'm not waving the white flag. I'm not going to give up. But if I can't hurt you relievers, and I can't find good, safe starters, you got to do something. I don't know. Just got to keep trying.
It's weird. You can really talk yourself into some guys on Sunday during FAAB. I can see how this works, and maybe you get the Pittsburgh started will be good, and then he'll at Chicago or whatever. Maybe make it work that out. Like you can see, I've done it before. I try not to, but I've talked myself into starts. And you look back on Saturday, you're like, that made no sense. Like, what am I doing? But sometimes you get desperate, and it's been a tough year to find, like you called them, don't hurt me guys. It's been a really rough year for those guys. It
has. I know you listed one guy on the list that could be that way, and that's Caleb Smith. Gets the Pirates and the Cubs. He also pitched the 22-1 game, just for the record.
He did. He has a 5.454 ERA. Which would look a lot better if you didn't have that 9 earned runs in 1 inning against the Dodgers last start. So a solid K rate, 26%. The walk rate's high, 11%. That's definitely a concern. I don't know. I was in on some bids on him, and maybe I'll be one of those people that look stupid at the end of next week. But home Pittsburgh at Chicago, I was remotely okay with enough strikeouts, and I'm in a couple leagues where I'm really trailing in strikeouts, and I need double start weeks, and I've tried to try and find guys I don't think will kill me, and he was one of them this week. The other one I was looking at was Alec Mills in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
His K rate's low. It's only 19%, but he's made 5 starts recently, 5 in a row here through the rotation. He's only topped 5 innings in 3 of those 5. But he's allowed 0 runs, 2 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs, and 3 runs. So it's one that you talk about not hurt you. Like, you give me 2 of those starts, and I can work that. But without the strikeouts there, you've got to make sure that he doesn't give up the 7 runs. Otherwise, he really stinks.
Well, without strikeouts, 5 runs in 4 innings is also kind of a kill you if you're not getting the payoff there. If you're not getting like 5 or 6 Ks to go with that. So yeah, like, and yeah, but the problem is, again, who else are you going to add? Like Tanner Houck. Okay, he gets at Toronto. Good luck.
Yeah, and he's looked good, but like, I just don't want to throw anyone there right now.
Yeah, at Toronto, and then the next week, oh well, he gets Toronto again. Okay,
that's a bit. Every time I look at an AL East pitcher, I'm like, oh, I wonder who he faces next week. He's always Toronto and Boston. I'm like, it just doesn't work. It's so hard.
Boston has 14 games the next 2 weeks, all against the AL East. Yeah. At Toronto, home against the Yankees, home against the Blue Jays. Yeah, Fenway Park against the Blue Jays. Ooh, give me all that. All those right-handed hitters. Yeah, fun time.
When Lourdes Gurriel is your 8-hitter, like, how do you throw anything against that lineup? Like, there is
and they might get Kirk back too to make it even a better lineup.
Kirk will hit ninth, and it's insane.
Yeah, I just no way, no how, no thank you.
What do you do with Madison Bumgarner? He's back right now, pitched pretty well in his first start. His K rate's up from last year, kind of back to his 2019 levels, about 24%. Walk rate's pretty good at under 7%. 5.35 ERA, though. I feel like this is always like walking just on a razor's edge with Bumgarner. Like he'll either be fine or he'll be really bad. I don't think the great is there anymore at all. And this is someone that I wanted no part of last year. But, again, we're at a spot where you need to find starts. He gets Pittsburgh this week, maybe a chance at a win. You got to figure he's a good bet to throw 5 or 6 innings at least. He's not a guy that's going to throw 2 1/3 unless he gets smoked. He'll be in there. But I was actually in on Bumgarner in a couple small bids this week, and I'm a little worried about it.
I won him $1 unopposed in one of our leagues. Yeah, well, it was a contingency bid.
That must have been a 12-teamer, right?
No, Maine.
Wow, I won it for 22 in Maine. There was a backup of 11. You did well.
Maybe.
Maybe
won. But
we both may have done really poorly. There's no doubt.
Alex, let's see what his prize is here.
Exactly.
It could be pretty ugly here. By the way, we had a pertinent question to the Blue Jays asking. Forrest Price asked about Alejandro Kirk. We mentioned him. Still technically on the IL. He's on his rehab assignment. We have a note, but this was like it's a little almost 2-week-old note. Actually,
I know pretty well known in the fantasy community Blue Jays fan, and he says that's Rob Silver, by the way.
I picked up on that.
I didn't want to say. I wanted to say his name. He pretty much thinks that they're going Jansen and McGuire and just trying to figure it out. Like maybe they trade one of them, maybe they figure something out. But Kirk's healthy. All the notes are that he's on a rehab assignment technically, but he'd be ready to go. Except they have 2 guys right now that they don't really want to move out at the moment. McGuire was hitting pretty well there for a little bit, and Jansen they like defensively, and I just think Kirk doesn't just fit right now.
Well, we've got all these Blue Jay sources now. We have Rob, we have Fred Zinke, Griffin Banger just came on the pod on Thursday a couple weeks ago. He's pretty in tight. It seems like there too. I mean, they are. I'm gonna have to hit these guys up here because I love Kirk, but what we love does not matter. Sometimes.
Like 2 weeks ago, I talked to Rob about adding Kirk, and he's like, I think they're going to leave him in AAA for a little bit, is what he said. So I kind of backed off my bids, and that was 2 weeks ago, and he's still there. So it's just maybe at the trade deadline they figure something out, but I don't think they want to bring up Kirk and have him. They can't have a third catcher. It doesn't really work with how deep their lineup is, and I don't think they want to have him call him up and not play very often. So he's just kind of stuck where he is at the moment. I mean, it's not like Jansen and McGuire are huge blocks, but it's just the kind of the way it's working right now.
It's almost like they're almost waiting for the next shoe to drop so they can force them to make a move.
Exactly. Yeah. Either, there's a lot of things that go on with those 2 guys. And so who knows, but yeah, that's kind of my feel in the Kirk situation. I've kind of, I've backed off looking at batting him just because you can't carry a third catcher right now, unless you're in a really, really deep bench league or something like that.
Yeah.
Anybody else FAAB wise you want to talk about? There are a couple 12-teamers, but guys we talked about before, both Tyler McGill and Kyle Muller are both really interesting. McGill's pitched really well.
Yeah.
Muller's going to be back. He's probably going to throw twice this week. They sent AJ Minter down today so they can free up a spot. It looks like Muller will fill up that spot either tomorrow or Tuesday, whether they slot him in. Those guys are 50 and 58% of the 12-teamers, so they were still available in a lot of these. They were taking all the main events pretty much, but both those guys pitched really well, and Muller looked really good for strikeouts. McGill's been really good not giving up runs. So those are guys that if they're available, I would certainly grab them right now.
Yeah, I would say just keep an eye out in your 12s to see who was dropped.
Yeah.
In one of my leagues, Corey Seager was available.
How much did he go for?
Like 400. It was a second chance league, I think.
Oh, I saw that bid.
Yeah, and then I was like at 201, and I wasn't even close. And
that was I think Zach Waxman was the one that.
Yes, that's correct. And then Dalton Del Don got in the same league got Byron Buxton for 250. So
all right.
Yeah, but this the whole point though is in the 12s, I got Zach Gallen in one league. And granted, he might be just it's a trap.
Looked great
last. He looked the part.
Yeah, he looked really good last start.
And let's face it, I was saying how hard it was to find guys that can make a difference pitching wise.
He's one.
Yeah, why not try? I mean,
sure.
you might get a huge market mover there, or it could just be like, it could be a total trap. But at the same time, you got to take that chance.
Yeah, the last thing I would say, if you're a 12-teamer, I would definitely, when you start your free agent bid, whenever it is you want to look tonight, go to the ownership percentage. If you see someone that's like 98, 90% owned, you know that someone got dropped in your league, and that happens. There's always a couple guys over 90% that are available in my leagues. Just kind of the way the math works out. I had Shane McClanahan was available in my online this week, and Will Myers got dropped in mine last week.
You'll see it.
You'll see it, people, and you might get people that start to, if someone has one closer and they're buried in saves, you might see some closers dropped here in the next few weeks. There's a lot of things. Definitely sort by that percentage owned column when you start your bidding.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the default, isn't it?
I think it actually is now, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was looking at my 12, see if any good was dropped.
At least in the NFBC, it's a default. Now, in other leagues, it might be at bats. I know in like RT Sports, I think it's homers for hitters. And wins for pitchers. It's something different for every site. So just know what your league is.
I'm trying to visualize what it is in Yahoo. I think it's
their player rater.
I think it's the player rater. I think you're right with that. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
the ownership percentage is kind of skewed there because you get like keeper leagues, people keep injured guys and stuff like that.
But the other thing that Yahoo has is you can just track recent activity, most added, most dropped. That's always also very helpful.
Let's do some news and notes really quick. There's a lot of like kind of questionable guys going into the weekend. Jacob deGrom was the biggest news. Went on the IL with right forearm tightness. This is just bad for baseball right here. Lose deGrom and Acuna in the same week is just awful.
Yeah, but watch him come back next week and strike out 28 people in one outing.
Right, he could be back in like 4 days or whatever the IL stint is, and he could be back in 4 weeks. I have no idea. It sounds like they've shut him down from throwing till the tightness goes away, which is not great because he's going to have to ramp back up. Although with the Mets, you just never know.
Yeah, well, at least we won't hear people complaining about him not pitching in the All-Star game anymore.
That's true, too. That is true. A bad day on Saturday for the Mets because they also put Francisco Lindor on the IL with an oblique injury. Grade 2 strain, no timetable. I got to think this is like 4 to 6 weeks. Are you dropping him in leagues right now?
I mean, you think about it. It's all of August, like pretty much.
September 1st, maybe. So you get 4 weeks out of him.
I probably won't, but I can see it. I can definitely see it. I think
I probably would in a 12 just because those things tend to linger. In a 15, I think I'd have to hold. I don't think I could do it in 15.
That's what I was thinking, 15. Yeah. So, yeah. But it's tempting. It really is. I mean, if you really need the spot, I think that's
it probably depends on how your roster build is and if you have stashes or you have other injured guys. The other guy that went on the IL on Saturday that I think I would drop is Pablo Lopez. Unfortunately, he went on the IL with a right rotator cuff strain. No timetable on him either. When you get a pitcher with that injury, like the time to ramp back up, I think he's a pretty sure drop for me. Unfortunately,
especially because it's the team context. Look at what do the Marlins have to play for? The Mets have something to play for. I mean, they're clearly in it to win it. Whereas the Marlins, I mean, if you're going to be a contender someday, it's because your young pitching gets better. What a disastrous year for the young pitching in the Marlins.
The Sixto thing just kills me. I love that dude.
And Alicia Hernandez too. Yeah. I mean, wasted year for both those guys. I mean, Rogers has been amazing too. Yeah. Lopez was having a good year, but I mean, it's otherwise just
And then we have a bunch of day-to-day guys with some big names. You mentioned Mookie Betts missed Sunday with a hip injury. He's expected to play on Monday, which kind of goes to the next guy, Kevin Gossman. You mentioned earlier he's back on Monday. He had a family emergency, but he was going to start against the Dodgers, so 2 starts this week. So you definitely want him in there. That's you're right. That's going to be a fun series.
Yeah, and Posey comes back too. So and Seager comes back. Yep. So it's there's a lot of goodness there. We'll see about Mookie. It's another West Coast start time, anxiety if you're trying to figure out your lineup for the week sort of thing. I'm probably going to just leave him in, but then you never know.
I think you got to leave him in. The guy I wanted to ask you about that kind of fits in this news and notes, but also fancy-wise, Gavin Lux left late Sunday with a apparent hamstring injury, apparently going for some more tests on Monday. I actually asked you about him. We were talking before the show. I asked you about him before he got hurt. So I was like, this is not an injury question, but I asked you if I was crazy to drop him in a 15-teamer. And you said, I don't think so. He doesn't do anything anyway. So, and it's you're kind of joking around, but like he really doesn't. I think he has 6 home runs, 3 stolen bases, hitting for a low average. and hits 8th. I think he's my biggest disappointment this season. I thought at worst he would take a little step up and be pretty good with a chance at a pretty significant upside of like being really, really good right away. He's been bad. There's just no way around it. I dropped him in 12 and 15s tonight. There's some point I may regret it, but I needed to cover the middle infield. I didn't need him. It didn't work anymore.
He's been bad, and Chris Taylor's been good.
Yeah, Chris Taylor's been great.
And Corey Seager's coming back. Something's got to give. It's Lux.
That was part of my thing too. Like, I think that starting on Monday, someone mentioned this to me on Twitter. I was talking to someone else about Lux on Twitter. He's got to lose playing time, right? He just has.
AJ Pollock's got a .530 slugging percentage,
yep.
and it's not Pollock that's going to give.
Nope.
It could be Bellinger.
It's not going to be Bellinger.
It's not going to be Bellinger, but it could be.
It maybe should be Bellinger, but it's not. I'm joking. It's not going to be Bellinger. But I mean, a team that's deep and you get everybody back. I mean, it's not going to be Muncy. It's not going to be JT. You mentioned Pollock. Pujols going to play a little bit, especially against lefties, and then they move. Muncy plays second. I just think
McKinstry's been better than Lux this year.
Agreed. I think Lux has. There's no way the math works unless someone else gets hurt that he doesn't lose a bunch of playing time starting Monday.
I think it's Cut City.
Yeah,
I really do. And
I wish I'd cut him a month ago. Would have been a lot better off.
Yeah, for sure.
I played him this weekend for the last gasp of a Coors Field weekend, and he did nothing again. So that was pretty much it. I ended up sitting someone who homered, and it pissed me off. So I was done.
Who'd you sit?
I think it was Didi Gregorius in that league.
Oh yeah, big one.
Homered. I think he homered today. Yeah. My main event team was 354 today. So if I'm a little salty today, that's why. That's hard to do. It's hard to get that many guys that play and all play and get 3 hits. It's tough to do.
Very.
And I had 2 guys on my bench that were active, and they both homered. So that was just a nice knife in my side there. Speaking of knife in the side, Steven Strasburg didn't feel right in his side session, and he's backing off mound work for now. Do you think we see Strasburg at anywhere near full good to go this year?
No, I do not.
Yeah.
I do not.
What do you do with him in a league if you own him? What do you do?
If I have him still, I mean,
you can't drop him, right?
It's not Russia. You can do anything you want. He's not on the undroppable list.
We're virtual. How do you know him in Russia?
Yeah, you never know. But I think
what would you do?
Plausibly
say if you happen to be playing in Yahoo Friends and Family, a 14-team mixed league.
Say for instance,
and you have Clayton Kershaw on the IL, and you would love to put him there, but you don't have a spot for him. Do you drop Strasburg to free up that spot so you can pick up somebody else?
You're talking to the doofus that has TJ Antone and Lucas Sims on using his 2 IL spots. So I don't know. And I think, isn't that a 16-team league too?
Oh, you're right. It is 16. I think it is 16. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I have Trout there, so you can tell how my season's going. But so he is going to come off the IL fairly soon. But I almost clicked drop on Strasburg today when I picked up Josiah Gray, and I just couldn't do it. But I probably should.
At least you got Josiah Gray.
I did. Hopefully that works.
I picked up Zach Britton, similar impact, I'm sure. Nice. No, the thing is, I mean, Britton might get some saves, especially if they don't trust Chapman anymore.
Do they not trust Chapman right now? Like, what's going on there? Like, it seems like he's there, he's healthy, he's not on the IL, but then Chad Green comes in or somebody. It just seems like they don't fully trust him. I don't know what's going on there.
Would you trust him right now?
No.
Yeah, I mean. Relievers, they come and go, and the thing is, he's done it for a long time, but he'll probably bounce back. He'll probably be fine.
I would think so.
Yeah, but you just might have to go through it for a little bit. But yeah, Strasburg, I mean, things aren't going right for them right now for the Nats. I mean, freaking scary situation on Saturday.
I was watching. It was weird. I had the 8 grid team on, but they were in the top left, so the volume was on. And Christy and I were having dinner, and we're just kind of hanging out. And I looked up, and all of a sudden, the announcer's like, "The players around the field, we have no idea what's." And the Padres announcer had no idea what's going on. Obviously, then it blew up on Twitter, but it was really eerie to watch in the moment, not knowing what the hell was going on.
Yeah, sure.
These people running on the field. It was wild, scary situation.
Yeah, it was super super scary there. And the Nats on the field, I mean, they got crushed like relentlessly on Friday. Yeah. Juan Soto is bouncing back. It started right before the break. And so that's good.
I thought the home run derby ruined everybody's swing, and they hit no home runs ever again when they're in the home run derby.
That only applies to Bobby Abreu. But
it's always the example everybody uses. It's so funny.
Yes, of course. Of course. It's the only one I can remember. But
it's because the only time it's really happened like that. People freak out for no reason.
Yeah, and Bobby Abreu was never that type of big
Yeah.
home run hitting swing. He hit homers, but it wasn't like that was his swing.
Bobby Abreu was going to regress that second half in home runs no matter what he did at the All-Star break. Put it
correct.
That way. Yes.
Correct. So, but and their pitching is just hideous. It's Mad Max, and then Joe Ross is hurt.
Corbin's ERA is about 5.5 still. He had like a 3-week stretch there where he kind of looked like the old guy, and then it's been back the other way again.
Yeah, they've been rolling out Eric Fedde.
He's terrible.
So bad. They might revert back to Sellers by the time, they had that surge. And I thought, okay, they're going to be all right after all. Then bats are warming up. Soto is starting to hit for some loft finally. He was always making hard contact. He was just using the Eric Hosmer swing path theory. And he got out of that apparently. So that's a positive development.
What's Juan Soto's ADP next year?
6.
It's a pretty good guess. Yeah, it's kind of where I'd go. I think that I think the second half's gonna be really good. I think we'll talk themselves into Bay back there. It's just interesting that he was kind of quiet in the second half. Our first half, we're all just talking about Tatis and Vlad Guerrero. And it's kind of just there's been no Juan Soto talk. I think that's going to change here. I think he feels primed for a really big half.
I mean, some of this story hasn't been written. We don't know what's going to happen to DeGrom now.
Yeah,
we don't know what's going to happen with Mookie now, and we don't know what's going to happen with Acuna now. Yep. I mean,
that first round is suddenly looking pretty wacky.
It's really, really, really wacky.
If DeGrom goes on and off the IL the next 2 months, like there's no way you could take him that high, right? Like, but then
he starts to venture into Strasburg territory, except he's a much better Strasburg.
He's just so damn good. Like if you got 150 innings, you're set. But like it's gonna feel risky no matter where you take him.
Well, who the hell knows what's going to happen with pitching next year?
Yeah,
I mean that's the thing. I mean, I'm a little unmoored right now because a lot of pitchers have started to struggle with that. Some have been okay, but I think there's a lot more instability than there was a month ago, and I hate what baseball's done there.
I feel like the studs are going to adjust, and we talked about Cole and Gilo, but it's going to be those like second, third tier guys that maybe needed that a little bit to be over the top and be really good. And those guys, I don't know if maybe they can't get back to that. It's I don't know. It's going to be something. There's going to be a lot of I'm sure a lot of fancy columns written about in the offseason how to deal with that. But it's going to be tough.
You know who's stabilized quite a bit after a really crappy start to the season?
Kyle Hendricks.
Yes, you knew it. Dude, you're looking at my browser somehow.
Dude has 12 wins. 12 wins.
Like 10 in a row.
He was horrible like the first 3 or 4 starts. I remember finally the regression's here. He's not going to outplay performance metrics. And here we are on July 18th. And he's got 12 wins and good ratios.
I'm old enough to remember when people were benching him for the 2-step, which included a Pittsburgh start.
Yep.
And it was the right thing to do because Pittsburgh killed him. Although he beat the Dodgers in that was the really weird thing. After that Pittsburgh start, he had a 6.23 ERA. Since then, and over the course in 76 innings, he has a 2.48 ERA, a 1.07 WHIP. Now he's not getting you strikeouts. That's the one thing. And K per 9 over that stretch is 6.4. I mean, you really are hurting yourself with strikeouts every time he pitches. But I mean, in a time when ratios are just crap, I mean. He's a rock.
And wins are impossible because guys go 4 or 5 innings. He got 12 of them.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's funny you say that. Luis Castillo, ERA 4.39. We're getting there.
Yeah. And now he can't get the wins because the Reds bullpen is just so exquisitely solid.
He left it 2-0 and Amir Garrett came in. I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm going to go ahead and change the channel here because I've already seen this game before.
I've seen this season before.
Yeah, I feel for you. Yu Darvish, good bullpen session on Saturday. Sounds like he's on track to start Monday. Obviously, you're starting him as long as he's out there. Nick Castellanos, your Reds, day-to-day with a wrist injury. He sounds like he's fine. Do you believe that? I think he seems like he's all right?
I noticed your Reds is what you went with there again. We're no longer our Reds.
I think it was one too many blown Luis Castillo wins that maybe I passed him.
I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that. That was a direct hit on the wrist. It
was
very similar to who was the Anthony Blandino. Is it Anthony? No, teammate on the Reds, and I'm getting the scout for the anyhow. Sorry. No, that's Blengino, Tony. That's the scout that's written for us before, and is a really good guy. But Anthony Blandino had a very similar plunking, and is on the 60.
Alex Blandino.
Alex, thank you. Yes. I had one of those mental blocks going, but anyhow, similar hit by pitch on the 60-day IL.
They freak me out. There's nothing I hate more than hand and wrist hit by pitches. They drive me every time I see one. It freaks me out. I get anxiety, and I'm sure the guy broke his hamate bone because that just always is what happens.
Yeah, and sometimes breaking a hamate bone is okay. Matt Olson came back just fine, and Joey Gallo did not.
Yeah, it just ever since Jose Canseco did it, like I knew it was 1990. I have bad flashbacks of that. Yeah. Jazz Chisholm looked like he was hurt when he dove for a ball today, landed on his shoulder. It looked like it came out of socket or something. They apparently went X-rays. Now I'm going to go ahead and say the X-rays on a shoulder injury like that don't really tell me anything. I want to see the MRI tomorrow. I think that's going to be more important because you got ligaments and that kind of stuff. They're calling it a bruised shoulder right now. I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up on the IL, to be honest.
Again, team context too.
Yep.
I mean, if you're the Marlins and then there's any doubt, you're going to sit them. And if there's any doubt, you're going to probably place them on the IL. But especially, they just shut down Lopez. I mean, it's pretty bad right now. They just shut down contract extension talks with Starling Marte. Don't be surprised if he gets dealt. He's on our list. I know, he's been very productive since coming off the IL.
Yeah, we may not get to all those on the list. We've gone.
Yeah, let's save that for next week because we got plenty of other stuff.
Yeah. Two catchers that are coming back, both Mitch Garver and Austin Nola. If they happen to be available in your leagues, I think now is the last chance to grab those guys. It sounds like Garver's going to rejoin the team in Chicago after his awful injury when he got hit in the groin. And then it sounds like Austin Nola also in his rehab assignment probably be up Tuesday or Wednesday, something like that. I think this is if they've been sitting out there on your waiver wire and you've been kind of staring at them waiting for the time, I think the time is now because they'll be gone. And if you're in a two-catcher league, those are both guys that you want starting in lineups. Yeah,
for sure. Padres have 7 games this week, all on the road, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But 3 in Atlanta, 4 in Miami, and only 1 against the starter that really scares you, and that's Rogers. But that's the Sunday game, and Nola probably won't play that game anyhow.
I picked up one of each of them last week, kind of figured the All-Star break, I could use that time. And I knew I'd take some zeros over the weekend, but hoping they come in lineup this week because I want to jump the gun on them. But 2 guys, catchers are really tough right now. I think those are guys you definitely want to be a starter.
I was just going to say, taking a 0 from a catcher is better than taking a 1 for 10. It's
better than me taking a 1 for 8 from Dalton Varsho, which is what he does every week. He has stolen base today, though.
Good for him.
It's been a rough. He has not hit the major league level at all.
That's one I kind of never bought the hype. Just he can suck at outfield or he can suck at catcher for you, but the point is he still sucks. I mean, right now maybe he'll be good someday. But
the playing time is there because Kelly's hurt and they traded Stephen Vogt, but I don't know. I don't know if more playing time is a good thing for him in fantasy wise because if he's going to hit $160, he's just going to hurt you.
I don't think his story is over. I don't think so either. But I think it's just it's tough right now.
I don't think you want him in your story right now. Is what I'm going to say.
I'd agree with that.
Do you want to answer the DFS question in the chat?
No.
Somebody asked how you can consistently win in MLB when there's so much variance and the NBA is so much easier because you can build lineups. My answer to that would be in Major League Baseball, you play every day and if you have a good process, you have to play every day because there's going to be days where Mike Trout's going to go over 4. It's just going to happen. LeBron James never scores 3 points in a game ever. But Mike Trout definitely scores 0 or negative. He's playing a league where, Ks are negative. But it's one of those things, if you play Major League Baseball DFS, I think you got to play every day. If you use a good process and you really study it, I think that over the course of time, if you're doing well, you're gonna find some big hits and do well.
Well, and it's tightening up too. And when I had Braca on the show,
he's a good DFS player. Yeah.
He was emphasizing play single entries, you may have to play at higher levels because the rake is lower. And I think that's the really tough part is cash games. The rake has gotten higher. I mean, it's not just playing against other players, it's playing against the sites. And, it's not just winning 50-50, you're winning 54% of the time to do that. And that's the tricky part. And I don't know the exact number. I'm just using that as an example, throwing that out there.
But you're right. The point is it's like betting with the VIG, and you got to win 52.5% of games to win if you're betting. So it's kind of
that's probably the number I'm probably searching for there. But point being is game selection is important, and then after that, then you have to have your process. And to be honest, I haven't nailed it. I'm doing all right this year, but there's ebbs and flows. Early in April, I was on fire. In May and May I wasn't, and then I had a good little stretch again. But it just goes in ebbs and flows for me.
And I play a lot of NFL, NBA, and golf DFS. I'll admit I don't play a lot of baseball. I just play so much season long that I usually can root for those guys and be good there. But I do think that if you're going to play, you got to consistently play every day. Because if you don't, you're going to find days like, oh, I love these guys. You didn't play. I think that you have to find a consistent process. And like you said, game selection's big, and you got to pick, play those same leagues or whatever every day and kind of stick with it. I think you just got to be consistent and be really, really solid with it.
Yeah, I'm salty about golf. I had Morikawa on one of my two lineups and still barely made any scratch because
speaking of Morikawa, people should listen to the Gaming Golf podcast on Tuesday because there was the Colin Morikawa was on the betting card at 33-1 this week. That was a big winner that I was definitely taking part in, so it was fun.
Yeah, you were leading the march for him.
I love my after Ricky Fowler and Tiger Woods has become my favorite golfer. I've been on him on his last 3 wins, and they've been all above 30-1. It's been a lot of fun. He will not be above 30-1 in a major for a long time.
I think you said that though last time he won too, which is the weird part.
He
was playing well.
Everybody got into these. Never played the Open Championship, British Open, whatever you want to call it. Can't play links golf. Have to get used to it. And I was like, well, he hits the ball better than everybody else, and he happened to putt better than everybody else this weekend, which is nobody saw coming. And if he putts well, he's almost impossible to beat. He's so good.
Yeah, my heart kind of breaks a little bit for Louis because he's been so good in majors this year, but just can't finish the deal.
So a few baseball players, we get back to this, I want to ask you about. I know we've done this for a lot of years. You've never been the person that's been on Blake Snell, but it's rough right now. He was bad again today, 4 innings, 4 earned runs, 6 hits, 4 walks, 3 Ks. And it's been consistently not only the issue of he's not throwing enough innings to get wins, which is we thought might be a problem. Maybe we thought it'd be less so a problem in San Diego that would have been in Tampa Bay because that was their organizational philosophy is get him out before the third time he's over. We saw in the World Series. But his ERA is now 5.5. Like, he's not that he's pitching well for 4 innings, thinking they're taking him out. 78 innings. The Ks are still good. They're a little bit down, but they're still good at 28%. But the walks are a huge issue right now. 14% walk rate. Hard hit rate's a career high. Barrels over 10% for the first time. His slider's still good, but I tell you what, every time he goes out there, he's just it doesn't look like a guy that you really feel good about at all.
And the home road thing still exists. And 143 ERA at home, 908 on the road. 3.8 walks per night.
I didn't know it was quite that bad.
No, it's been so pronounced all year. That's the funny thing. And even when he pitches well on the road, that Philly start, his last prior to the break, 4 shutout innings, but they wouldn't let him pitch the 5th with like a 5-0 lead. Some of this is Jace Tingler. He really has a quick hook. You might be pissed at Kevin Cash. Wait till you get a load of Jace Tingler. I mean, he's got a quicker hook. Now, you watch Snell nibble, and I get it. Yeah, but it's not just Snell with him. I mean, he's got a quick hook with a lot of pitchers, and that's going to come back to haunt him.
He seems like it really has one with Musgrove, too. And it's funny. I feel like Musgrove's having a bad year, and they look at his ERA is 3.15. But it seems like he has these 4-inning starts. You're like, oh, Musgrove's struggling again. And you look, and he's actually pitched pretty well.
And the Padres are a very good team, but I'll tell you, I think that's going to have second-order effects. Drew Pomeranz hasn't been right all season.
Pagan got housed today, too.
Yeah. And I just think there's just such heavy workloads that they're shouldering there. And I think it's going to, and they're just churning their roster. Joe Sheehan wrote about this, how used them as an example, but there's certainly plenty of other teams too that are guilty of this. But, a guy will throw a bunch of innings in relief and then they send him down because he's not up for the next game because they're churning through that bullpen.
Yep.
Trying to remember the guy's name here and bear with me on this, but he might not even be up with the big club right now. It's just because they keep churning. It's funny because
they're West Coast, so late at night I can flip on the games. It seems like they throw Tim Hill, the lefty, like sidearm. It seems like he throws every game. It's just they throw guys over and over.
Nabil Krismat is the guy that has just been riding the roller coaster big time. Recalled him right at the start of the All-Star break. They recalled him back up the majors. At least he got to spend the All-Star break on the major league salary. But
so he's the Edward Olivares of pitchers.
I'll assume that's yes, that's right with the Royals. Yes,
he's been up and down like 5 times. It's wild. He comes up for like 2 days every time too.
Yeah, and Krismat threw like 5 innings against the Nats and then got sent back down because he threw 5 innings and wasn't going to be available. Similarly, I think there was another outing where he went like 3 innings and got sent down again. It's just like it's kind of unfair to these guys, especially because when they get sent down, they get paid a minor league salary.
Yeah, they do. It's big. Yeah. It's a big difference too.
Huge difference, and it's not like Krismat's the be all end all, but that's the whole point though. Is I don't think it's good for development for the long term either. I think when you yo-yo these guys and just kind of max them out, throw max effort, and then we're going to send you down, but don't worry, we'll call you back up. They out there, they're trying to throw their hardest. They're trying to impress. They blow out their arms. Look at the Padres and the Rays, and look at how many relievers are on the 60-day IL for each of these two teams.
Yep.
It is insane.
I feel good about myself. I mentioned Tim Hill. He's actually third in majors in appearances, so I was not crazy. He does pitch a ton.
Yeah, he does.
One more guy I want to ask you about before we get out of here, I want to talk about is Logan Gilbert in Seattle.
Yeah.
He first came up. His first 3 starts were rough. It's weird because they were rough stat-wise, but if you watch the game, you're like, this guy's stuff doesn't really look great. And have you heard all this hype? He didn't look good. The fastball is kind of flat. He's been great lately. 5 1/3 today against the Angels, 4 hits, 2 walks, 2 earned runs, 9 strikeouts. ERA's down to 3.5 on the year now. First 3 starts, 10 2/3 innings, 9 earned runs. Was really struggling. Since then, 43 1/3, 12 earned runs, 51 strikeouts. If you either had the patience to stick with him or you jumped on him with someone else, lost their patience, he's been a huge pickup.
I'm a sucker for good whip. 0.97 whip.
I love good whip too.
Yeah, 10 walks in 48 innings. I mean, from a rookie, yes. Yeah. I love it. Love it there. And quietly, Seattle's having a pretty good year. And you look at they have so many things that are just meh. But Gilbert's pitching well. Kikuchi, this weekend notwithstanding, has had a really nice season. Their bullpen has patched together a lot of good outings so far this year. Although finally Graveman got hit this weekend too. Yeah. But Gilbert's a good part of this story. 10 starts, and he's averaging slightly less than 5 innings per start, and that's a negative. But a couple of and he had like a 2-inning outing against the White Sox, I think. But I think that might have been weather induced because he didn't pitch poorly in that. I have to go back and check on that one there. But the point is, they're getting some good things. This is another team. The only drag on Gilbert's value is they're the 6-man rotation again.
Yep.
Although.
Yeah. The interesting, I think that must have been a weather thing at the White Sox, by the way, that game, because he pitched 2 scoreless. The interesting thing is this is a big series. The A's in Seattle play 4 games in Seattle this weekend, and quietly, Seattle's only 3 games behind the A's. They've snuck up on them. This is a huge series for both teams. And
they no longer have a 6-man. They are a 5-man rotation right now. I think it's because Sheffield's on the IL.
Oh, that's right. Sheffield's gone. Yeah.
But Marco Gonzalez has been pretty awful, and yet they're still where they are at. Yeah, this is like the A's can kind of put the Seattle in the rear view mirror, at least as one team that they don't have to worry about with a good outing here, good series. But they're not playing great ball themselves right now, so this is pretty big for Seattle.
It is. It's a big series. So cool. Anybody else you want to talk about? We've got kind of at the end here. Anybody else on your mind that you want to discuss real quick?
No, I think we covered plenty, and that'll save whatever we didn't cover. We'll cover next week.
Yeah, we got pretty close to everybody. So thanks everybody for listening to the Rotowire Fantasy Baseball Podcast, sponsored by WynnBET. That is WYNN. If you want to follow Jeff on Twitter, he's at Jeff_Erickson. I am at Scott Jenstad. We're usually on there talking about some sort of sports stuff. Sometimes it's golf, sometimes football, sometimes baseball, but we will definitely answer questions or talk sports with you there. If you could please rate or review the podcast, it does help a lot. Helps people find the podcast. It's always a very good thing for everybody involved. Other than that, hope everybody has a great first full week back off the All-Star break. Hope your team starts to make a move here. We'll be back at you next Sunday night. Take care.